Hermes, Greek god, beautiful, athletic, fast, a smooth-talking son of a gun, handsome, charming trickster who boasts an incredible rags to riches story. In a way, Hermes is the original American dream, which is a fitting comparison because it is also built on the back of murder and lies and taking things that are not yours.
That escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Hermes was born into poverty, born into a cave to be specific, and he stole things just to get the attention of his dad, who abandoned him and his mother, and eventually, on the back of his insane athleticism, Hermes rose up to become one of the most important gods in Greek mythology. Actually, now that I really think about that, that sounds like literally 99% of the stories of black athletes. Damn. Except Hermes had the weakest shoe game ever. My guy was rocking these.
What are those?
It's okay though, because he makes up for it with a cool job title. Psychopomp. Like legit, I'm not even making that word up. That sounds super cool. That's his actual ancient title. And if you don't know what that means, or want to use it as a name for your next Cyberpunk 2077 character, then well, I guess you have to stay tuned, because I'm covering all these topics in detail in this video. So, I'm gonna do this. Hermes' story starts when Zeus cheated on Hera.
Oh, Kelsey, please.
Every Zeus cheating special comes with a unique flavoring, you know, and in this one, that unique flavoring is that it was actually a woman that slept with Zeus of her own will. She actually liked him, so in return, Zeus left a pregnant woman behind in a cave after he was done with her. This is made slightly less terrible by the fact that she was only pregnant with Hermes for 1 day before the god burst onto the scene, breaking speed records from day one. And while his mom was getting her deserved rest and recovering from giving birth in a cave all alone, Hermes got hungry, and at 1 day old, he snuck out the cave to steal 50 oxen. He didn't just steal any oxen though, nah. He stole a holy cattle from his holy half-brother, the god Apollo. Also born to Zeus cheating, by the way, but I got his story covered on my channel too, you know, in this video. That was a plug, that was real smooth. You were right. Good idea. So baby Hermes stole Apollo's 50 oxen, ate 2 of them because he was hungry, and kept the rest hidden from Apollo. Then Hermes randomly killed a turtle to turn its shell into the first lyre with strings made from the guts of yet another dead animal, a dead sheep. It's like, goddamn, like, what did animals ever do to this guy? He's a day old, bro. And after casually mastering the lyre over the rest of that first day, Hermes fell asleep, only to be woken up by his mother, who was all like, why are you sleeping next to a dead turtle? And why is its shell ripped off? Why are you covered in blood? And why is there 48 oxen outside of the cave? Like, you're 2 days old, bro. What the fuck? But before Hermes could answer, Apollo entered their humble cave and accused the baby of stealing his cattle. And Hermes said, "Wasn't me." But then Apollo said, "There's literally 48 oxen outside the cave. I literally walked past my 48. I recognize that." "It wasn't me." Bro, there's leftover steak on the plate next to you. You got barbecue sauce on your face. "It wasn't me." So yeah, Hermes dragged this out, and Apollo dragged Hermes before Zeus for some divine judgment. But little did Apollo know that this all was Hermes' plan all along. He simply wanted to be on his father's radar, and when he finally came face to face with the man who abandoned him and his mother, Hermes decided to become his dad's personal messenger, live on Mount Olympus with him and the other gods, and also abandon his mother in her cave alone. Apollo, meanwhile, was still mad about the stolen cattle though. So Hermes was like, "Yo, bro, check this out." He busts out the lyre, he plays some sweet tunes, and Apollo was so mesmerized by the sounds of the lyre that all beef was forgotten because
that's the power of music.
Also, I feel like that line went over some of y'all's heads. I said, all beef was forgotten. Beef, stolen oxen. Yeah, the beef, the theft of the beef was forgotten. You get me some bars, bro. This bars, that's the kind of bars. Well, I'm not trying to say nothing. Like, I don't know why you're moving away from me right now. I'm trying to, but it's like the kind of bars we gotta think. You know what I mean? Like, I put some and some mustard in. So Apollo and Hermes decided to become BFFs, and Hermes gave Apollo his lyre to make Apollo the god of music, and Apollo gave Hermes his cattle because a guy that at this point of the story kidnapped 50 animals, killed 4 others, and mutilated 2 more seems like a solid choice to be the god of cattle and herds. And sure enough, Hermes would later live up to that standard by having animal tongues sacrificed to him because Hermes is good with his tongue, and men wanted to receive that blessing. But I'm gonna let you sit on that for a while to wonder whether that's like meant in a kinky, dirty way or not. Because for now, I need to get back to how Apollo also gifted Hermes the infamous caduceus, which is a staff that looks like this, and you most likely seen this symbol associated with medicine, but back then it was Hermes' staff, a symbol for commerce and trading, since that was another thing that the cunning Hermes was assigned to be the god of. That's, by the way, why he was good with his tongue. He was the OG silver-tongued devil, well, god, that will smooth talk people into anything. So money-hungry people naturally worshipped him for money-hungry dreams and to be blessed with Hermes' silver tongue. But all of that is just a fraction of who Hermes is, what Hermes did, and what Hermes represents. And now, let's talk about the innocent people he killed. Or drowned. Not killed, drowned, rather. But, semantics. Now, which story should I continue with? The time Hermes helped his father Zeus cheat on his wife and then beheaded an innocent sleeping man? The time Hermes helped Perseus slay an innocent woman that his uncle Poseidon raped and who his sister Athena turned into a monster? Or the time him and Zeus killed an entire village because nobody invited them in for dinner? Actually, let's start with how Hermes and Aphrodite had a child that is both male and female. And I call this one the story of they and them. Aphrodite cheated on her husband Hephaestus with his brother and the love of her life, Ares, whom she loved so much that she then cheated on him with his brother Hermes. Yeah, she's a keeper. Aphrodite and Hermes had a son and figured, hey, let's put our names together to come up with something stupid like how Kevin and Maria makes Kevria or Stephen and Helen makes Stephen. Wait, yeah, she works. Damn. So the boy was named Hermaphrodite, and he grew up to be a man that was so ridiculously beautiful that when he was bathing by a river, a nymph fell madly in love with him instantly, on the spot, at first sight. So madly in love that she literally jumped at him, hugged him so aggressively and intensely, and screamed, prayed to all the gods that they should please forever be one. And first of all, what the hell? That's crazy. Second, you should know that the gods take these kinds of scream prayers literally. They get a kick out of it. So they fused the nymph and Hermaphrodite into one. And now Hermaphrodite had 2 genders. And that's the story of they and them. Hermes had one more relevant child, a child he had with his wife Penelope, a child that you might know under the name Pan, the goat man, the horny goat man. The horny goat man who is always naked and always has a boner and always tries to use it regardless of whether or not the woman wants it to be used on her or not. In fact, Pan is lovingly named after one such non-consensual attempt at boner usage. The name Pan comes from the word panikos, which means panic, and that's because Pan and his boner instilled panic in many a woman, famously once chasing a beautiful nymph trying to present his furry goat boner to her, and she was so terrified she ran away and transformed herself into reeds so he can't do anything to her. So then Pan turned her into the first pan flute so that he can still get his lips on all the holes. Damn. Like, how is that so dirty, yet also simply the most accurate way to describe the use of a flute? So that's where the pan flute gets its name from. tell that story at the next cool flute gathering you have and you're playing holes. That's a real icebreaker. Anyway, yes, that's Hermes' other son. Or his only son, since Hermaphrodite is not, excuse me, not technically, they're not a son. Man, this stuff is complicated. Please don't cancel me. There is more to the story of Pan, so please wait for the extra notes at the end of the video if you want more about lips, hoes, and goat boners. And on that note, hi to the teachers who are using this video in classes. How you doing, kids? Hope you're enjoying it. Now that I filled you in on Hermes' family life, let's look at what the guy got up to when he was not home, because he was actually one of the busiest Greek gods. Hermes was literally guiding all of Greek mythology. He guided heroes on their quests to glory. He guided souls into the underworld. Hermes even guided dreams to whoever is meant to dream them. And he guided Zeus's word and orders whenever that was required of him. Why did Hermes have to guide anything and everything? Because he was fast. And in his cute little winged sandals, he was real fast, real cunning, and deceiving enough to talk himself in and out of any situation or do any and all convincing that might be required on any of these journeys. He was just the perfect guy for these things. And a good example of this is one of the 3 stories I teased earlier. That time, Hermes helped his father cheat and beheaded a dude. It was a clear black night, a clear white moon. Zeus was on the streets, trying to consume. So Zeus ran into the beautiful Io, a woman minding her business until Zeus made her business all about his business, aka his raging lightning bolt, and suddenly suggested to start some thunder in the forest.
Smooth.
Unsurprisingly, Io said, "Ew." Get it? Unsurprisingly, Io said, "Ew, no," and ran away instead. And even less unsurprisingly, Zeus chased her down and did to her what he came to do. Hera, at the time, was on a jealous tear and had been tailing Zeus, so she caught her husband in the act, and then Zeus quickly transformed Io into a cow because Hera, though, was not to be fooled. Immediately clocked what happened, so to save the innocent Io, Hera made Zeus gift the cow to her and then did not transform her back into human, but instead had her giant servant watch over her and hold her prisoner, so she is away from Zeus, all the while keeping her in her cow form. What was Hera's title again? Alright. Goddess and protector of women. Good. For a second I was like, is she not doing her job? That giant servant was not just a big man, by the way, but literally a giant servant. The 100-eyed giant Argos, who could sleep with any 2 eyes closed and 98 open, so nothing ever escaped his sight. After Io was kept prisoner as a cow forever, Zeus eventually felt guilty, but not guilty enough to do something about it himself. So he sent Hermes instead to save Io. Hermes disguised himself as a shepherd and wandered his sheep along the pasture where the giant was keeping cow Io, and Hermes strode past Argos playing the pan flute, and Argos was like, "What's that? That sounds amazing. Oh, this? This here is just a little pan flute, but you know what? Let me tell you a story about my horny son and his furry boner and a lady in peril." And then Hermes told the giant the same story I told you about the origin of the flute, but cleverly turned it into the longest and most boring story ever, getting the giant to fall asleep and close all his eyes. At this point, Hermes could have just saved Io, but randomly decided that it was necessary to also decapitate Argos first, while he was sleeping, and then was so proud of that sleep frag that one of his nicknames forever was Argefontes, Slayer of Argos. With the giant dead, Hermes told Io to be free, and Io was like, "Bro, I'm still a cow. What the hell is this crappy rescue, man?" But beggars can't be choosers, so Io put her hooves to good use and ran for freedom. but she could never truly escape Hera's wrath. Hera set the evil Furies on Eo's tail, literally tail, to follow her everywhere, eternally torture and eventually kill her. So in desperation, Cow Io escaped all the way to the river Nile, where she eventually collapsed. But just before she died, Zeus begged Hera for mercy and forgiveness. And sometimes a sorry is all you want to hear after your husband cheated on you for the 973rd time before you torture a bitch to death. You know what I mean? So Hera transformed Io back into a human, and Io then started a new life in Egypt. She married a pharaoh and became known and worshipped as the goddess Isis. And that's that time Hermes helped Zeus cheat and beheaded a dude. So that was one major part of Hermes's duties: do Zeus's bidding. Like this one time,
I'm at band camp?
Zeus was captured by the evil monster Typhon, who threatened to take over Mount Olympus, and it was Hermes who freed Zeus and enabled Zeus to win the battle against Typhon and keep the throne. But in general, you could say that Hermes kind of helped all the gods maintain order. He once freed Ares when the god of war was captured by enemies, and he helped the goddess Demeter find her daughter Persephone when she was kidnapped and taken to the underworld. But on that note, him helping Demeter find her daughter in the underworld, that was more than just him being helpful, because it also relates to the connection Hermes in general has to the underworld, or more specific, Hermes's connection to the dead. Psychopomp, a guide of souls to the place of the dead. Hermes was a psychopomp in Greek mythology. And just so you understand his exact role in the cycle of life and death, here's how that cycle works in Greek mythology. The Moirae weave all the fates and determine all deaths. They then sent their brother Thanatos to take the soul when it's due to die. Thanatos then obviously collects these souls and gives them to Hermes, who uses the speed to transport the souls to the gates of the underworld, where Charon, another sibling of Thanatos and the Moirae, ferries them across the river Styx and finally delivers them to Hades and the judges for eternal judgment. So Hermes was frequently in and out of the underworld, guiding souls. That's also why Hermes was the god of travelers, and specifically the god of roads. Not just, physical crossroads that you might meet while you're going somewhere, but also mental crossroads, and crossroads that transcend the world entirely, life and death. And sometimes that connection to death meant that Hermes himself was the cause of it. As the silver-tongued god, anything that has anything to do with communication was Hermes's duty. In essence, Hermes was also the god of social intercourse. And while the gods themselves were more about intercourse than social when it came to humanity, they were very strict on how humans behave amongst each other and towards the gods, specifically when it came to hospitality. And when humans didn't comply, Hermes was often the one to punish people for it, either individually or by eradicating a whole town from the face of the earth. Like that time, Hermes and Zeus murdered an entire town because they were hungry. Hermes and Zeus were roaming the world of the living in disguise. And particularly, they visited a town where they asked everybody for food, drink, and shelter. And the story goes that they were turned down 1,000 times until finally a poor elderly couple who had about a cup of water and a slice of bread to share between the two of them invited them in to their rundown shack for food, drinks, and shelter. A touching gesture, so touching that Hermes and Zeus showed their gratitude by killing everybody in the town except for the elderly couple who, being older, I assume have children and grandchildren in that village. But hey, those children didn't invite them in for food, drink, and shelter. So Zeus and Hermes flooded the whole town, drowned everybody, tore apart all the houses except for the couple and their shack, that shack they turned into a temple for the worship of Zeus. A temple, mind you, that is now in the middle of a goddamn swamp that used to be a town, a swamp flooded, filled with corpses of children floating around, and the couple was then rewarded to worship Zeus in that temple for the rest of their lives, and when one dies, the other would be blessed with instant death too, and they would become intertwined trees in front of the temple, intertwined trees in front of a temple in the middle of a flooded swamp with corpses of their children floating around, including their grandchildren and their children. Thanks, Hermes. Thanks, Zeus. And that's that time Hermes and Zeus murdered an entire town because they were hungry. When he wasn't busy drowning children and their families for the crime of whoever answered the door, not inviting a stranger into their home in which they are trying to protect their children and their family, when he wasn't doing that or psychopumping, Hermes was also the god of trickery and thievery. Kind of obvious from him literally tricking and thieving on the first day he was born, but it should be noted that being a trickster in ancient Greece is not necessarily as evil as we define the word today. Every great mortal hero used trickery and forms of thievery to complete their deeds. In fact, many great tales are all about the heroes tricking the villains, like in the case of Heracles, aka Hercules, where he literally used trickery to then steal something. For one of his 12 labors, Heracles had to steal a golden apple, and he tricked Atlas into helping him do it. And we consider him a hero for it. So yes, trickery was in a way just an aspect of being a genius, of being cunning, which were admirable attributes, and all of those attributes Hermes was the god of, while a certain mortal was the hero entirely defined by these traits. Odysseus, the charming, cunning trickster hero of the Odyssey, who doesn't just take after Hermes by accident. Odysseus is actually Hermes' great-grandson. So, unsurprisingly, Hermes had a thing for helping his great-grandson out on his travels, but since Odysseus will get his own video, I want to use another Greek hero to symbolize Hermes' role as the guide for heroes, Perseus. Story number 3 that I teased earlier, which is that time Hermes helped Perseus slay the innocent woman that his uncle Poseidon raped and his sister Athena turned into a monster. Medusa was a beautiful priestess, minding her own business, just praying away. But everybody was minding her because she was just so damn beautiful. Unfortunately, for all the thirsty simps of the time, Medusa was also a forever virgin, since she dedicated her life to the worship of the virgin goddess Athena. Then, one day, god of thirst, Poseidon, who very fittingly rules over water, paid Medusa a visit in her temple to rape her. Since the temple was a temple of the virgin goddess Athena, the goddess Athena was furious and punished Medusa for being raped and breaking the chastity vow. What was Athena's role again? Oh yeah, also a goddess and protector of women. Maybe her and Hera can exchange ideas on how best to protect women. Athena's punishment was to turn Medusa into the infamous snake monster, because Athena thought it would be kind of ironic that the woman once stared at constantly for her beauty is now the monster whose gaze turns everyone into stone. Yeah, Athena's a kind of a bitch. But even after all that, poor Medusa didn't even seek vengeance. She actually didn't want to harm anybody and fled to a remote island to be left in peace. But every soldier looking for his 15 minutes of fame came after her to slay the monster. Yet none succeeded, and soon Medusa's island was filled with the statues of petrified soldiers. Enter Perseus and Hermes. Perseus was a son of Zeus, and you know how these incestuous royal families are. They stick together. They stick together, literally. So when Perseus decided to slay Medusa, Hermes decided that killing innocent women who are punished for being the victim of rape is a cause that he can really get behind. So he wanted to help and lent Perseus his famous winged sandals, and then Hermes guided Perseus around Greece to collect even more OP gear, Athena's shield, Hades' helmet of invisibility, and an adamantine sword from Zeus. Basically, Hermes was the dude guiding Perseus to a bunch of cheat codes and then sent him on his way to slay Medusa, which, of course, Perseus then did. And that's how Hermes helped Perseus slay the innocent woman that his uncle Poseidon raped and his sister Athena turned into a monster. So that's kind of all there is to Hermes in a nutshell. I'll leave it to you to interpret the morality of these tales, but when you do, keep in mind that a god's title always reflects the good and the bad aspects of it. For example, since I ragged on Athena and Hera earlier, anybody who is the goddess of women is then responsible for all good that happens to women, but also all the bad. That's why you pray to them. That's why you worship gods and goddesses, not just for their blessing, but also out of fear for the opposite. All of the Greek mythology tales serve as a cautionary tale, and there are lessons contained within. So feel free to interpret Hermes' tales for that lesson, morality, or ethics in the comments. But first, here's the extra note about the goat boner guy who puts his lips on holes. Pan. As I said, within Greek mythology as we know it, Pan is Hermes' son, but Pan as a deity is actually older than Greek mythology as we know it. Pan originates out of the Hindu Vedic deity Pushan, an ancient psychopomp, meaning he helped souls transcend into the underworld like Hermes, but Pushan, way back, was also a deity worshipped for nature, herds, cattle, roads, journeys, and goats, and as you can see from all these things, they are obviously all attributes that either Pan or Hermes or both have. And that's because at some point in time, the ancient Pushan was split, divided into Hermes and Pan, each taking on various attributes of the OG god. And then once our beloved era of Greek mythology came around, this was simplified as Pan simply being Hermes' son. And then for his backstory and name, they decided to ruin flutes forever. So, yeah. See you on the next episode of Keeping Up with the Greek Gods. Yeah, and now let's see what that next episode is going to be.